Down to Watch strives to be a unique podcast dedicated to movies, TV, and music with a soft spot for cult classics. Join your hosts K and D for fun, games, and the occasional pop culture chatter. This is Down to Watch. Hello, and welcome to episode 15 of Down to Watch, where we talk about cult classic or canceled TV and movies and music, pretty much anything that I deem worthy at the point in time. But today, I'm here to talk about The Departed, the movie The Departed, and I am joined by a very special guest, Mr. Nick Kizina from Sinister Dream Productions.
Hi.
Super stoked to have you here today. Thank you for coming.
Stoked to be here.
This was your choice, correct? You chose The Departed for today.
Yes, I did.
Which I'm totally cool with because I dig the movie. So just so you guys know, obviously there's going to be spoilers. This movie came out in 2006. So if you haven't seen it by now, I imagine you're not going to see it at this point. So I don't think spoilers are going to matter too much to you.
It's a 9-year-old movie.
Yeah. Get with it, man.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with a little bit of nerdy news. I just saw that Joss Whedon is not going to be back for Avengers Infinity War.
No, it's the Russo brothers. The guys who did Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Civil War. They're doing Civil War right now.
Yeah, so that's a little bit disappointing for me.
I think he's done at this point.
Yeah, the quote here that I have from him is like, I couldn't imagine doing this again. It's been enormously hard, and it'd be, by then, a good 5 years since I'd created anything that was completely my own. So it's very doubtful that I would take on the 2-part Infinity War movie that will eat up the next 4 years of my life. I mean, he's got a good point. I guess it has been a while since he's just done anything that was just weed and... Yeah,
the closest thing was Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, which was great.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Such a good movie.
I like that movie a lot, too.
It's so good. So yeah, and apparently as I just checked out that article, this is definitely old news to everybody but me. It looked like that article came out January.
Yeah,
31st.
He made a comment like he said he's always been a Marvel fan, like he's written for Marvel. He wrote some of the X-Men, and but he said he's always been DC curious, as he put it. So I was like, come on, just make him, just someone call him,
right?
Even if he was joking.
Exactly. Let him do Wonder Woman. That would be great. I know he'd get a real kick out of that.
Yeah, it'd be like full circle for him.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into The Departed.
Okay.
Came out 2006, and let me read the back of the DVD cover.
I actually have some stats here.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to read the summary.
Okay.
Of rookie cop Billy Costigan grew up in crime. That makes him the perfect mole, the man on the inside of the mob by boss. Let's try that again. Rookie cop Billy Costigan grew up in crime. That makes him the perfect mole, the man on the inside of the mob run by boss Frank Costello. It's his job to win Costello's trust and help his detective handlers bring Costello down. Meanwhile, SIU officer Colin Sullivan has everyone's trust. No one suspects he's Costello's mole. And this movie was made in 2006, directed by Martin Scorsese, and written by William Monahan. Did you have other stats on this?
It's based off of a Hong Kong cinema movie called Internal Affairs.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you happen to see that movie?
No, it's on Netflix. I meant to watch it before this, but I didn't get around, because this is almost a 3-hour movie.
Right.
I couldn't bring myself to be able to watch Internal Affairs afterwards because I'm pretty sure it has subtitles. So we finished this at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to read subtitles.
No.
Right now.
Subtitles are not in my scope at this point at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So our personal history with this movie, I've seen it before. I own the DVD. I've probably only watched it in its entirety maybe 3 or 4 other times. It's always been like one of those I can put it on for like nap time or or just some background stuff. But yeah, I do enjoy it. And I don't think I saw it in the theater. I'm pretty sure it was a rental for me when I first saw it.
For me, I didn't see it in the theaters either. But in 2006, I was taking a Scorsese class.
Fun.
So, yeah. So we watched it in Scorsese, and I bought the single disc before I watched it because sometimes I'll do that because I like Scorsese a lot. He's actually one of my favorite directors. We refer to him lovingly as Uncle Marty on my podcast.
Uncle Marty.
So I just bought the single disc just to have it, and then we eventually watched it in Scorsese, and I immediately afterwards sold the single disc and went and bought this double disc because of all the different features on the double disc version.
Did you because I haven't watched any of the deleted scenes on there. Did you?
No, I haven't watched any of the deleted scenes. I've watched like the Scorsese on Scorsese and the crossing of crime cultures and stuff like that, but I haven't watched the deleted scenes yet.
I like movies like this. Like, I do enjoy Scorsese films. I like even like true crime, like the actual documentaries about mobs and mafia and all that stuff. I really get a kick out of it, more so than like yesterday I did a podcast on The Notebook, and even though I enjoy The Notebook, it's like that's not my zhuzh. Like, I don't really go towards like the more sappy romance kind of things. And Nicholas Sparks, he just seems like more of a troublemaker to me than Scorsese.
That's fair. I can't really argue that.
So I guess we'll go into character/actor breakdowns. We'll start off with our boy Leonardo DiCaprio.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
No, I had to stop myself. For the longest time, I would call him Leonardo DiCaprio. Just
like post Titanic, when he started working with Scorsese, then he got like, okay,
more. We're respectable now.
Okay. Oh, so it wasn't you; it was the directors you were working with. I understand.
Right.
It's okay.
Yeah, it was the machine that you were caught up in. They were trying to make you into this heartthrob, and really, he's got like good chops. Like, I mean, I enjoy watching Leonardo. It's not that he doesn't really disappear into characters, but he is enjoyable to watch. And I love him in this, where he plays Billy, who's basically he's the main guy. He starts off as a cadet.
Yeah.
In
the Stadies.
Yes. And this takes place in Boston. And I didn't catch if was he really kicked out, or did they seek him out and start to groom him on this undercover
the latter
thing? Okay.
Yeah, because that's what that scene with him and Queenan and fucking Mark
Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Dingham,
that's it. I couldn't remember his name. What that scene was about was like just saying that like they're essentially saying that your background and your family is so problematic, there is no way we can allow you to be in the state police, but this is the way that you can be in the state police.
Gotcha.
Because you know these people, you've lived with these people, you know the culture.
All right. Okay. Yeah, so I'll buy that. So they start grooming him for that, and they put him in jail for a few months, and then he comes out, he's got a record, and then he eventually gets the attention of Frank Costello, the mob boss, played by Jack Nicholson, who is doing everything in his power to make us hate his character. This is like the grossest person ever.
Yeah. He's gross, but yet at the same time still very charming.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
He's actually based off of an actual Irish mafia boss named Jimmy Whitey Bulger.
Really?
Yeah. William Monahan, the guy who wrote this, he was from Boston. And he took like internal affairs and he just kind of slid it into like the Irish mob. And he based Frank Costello loosely off of Whitey Bulger.
And that's the kind of stuff that I like. I enjoy the fact that there's somebody out there this is based upon. But yeah, he's like the most racist, misogynistic, just hateful, despicable person.
Yeah, they waste no time.
No, like boom, you get jumped in there. Like when he asks the girl at the shopkeep's daughter that she got her period yet.
Which reminded me of Game of Thrones. Whenever Cersei asks Sansa.
Yeah, exactly. Have you gotten your womanly yet? Or whatever they call it. Oh, my God, yeah. That's pretty. All right, so Frank Costello is the mob boss, and he sees Billy as, fresh blood for his soldiers, and so he recruits him. Next, we've got Matt Damon, who plays Colin Sullivan, who basically has grown up around Frank. Frank has basically molded him from like childhood.
Yeah. And
he's groomed him into becoming one of his people. But Colin Sullivan is actually on the police force, and but he's living the double life there. He's Frank's mole, and he's helping him out, helping keep him out of jail. And I feel like he sees him he calls him dad, like when he
Yeah.
answers the phone, like he uses that guy's, but I feel like he really does see him as a father figure, because I'm assuming he didn't have a father figure growing up at that certain point.
Yeah, because he said whenever he first meets Colin, whenever he's a kid, he makes the comment that you live with your grandma. Like he asked him, like you live with your grandma, so like
Right.
he just has his grandmother.
Yeah.
Which we don't know how old she is.
Exactly. So he basically, I don't think Colin has any other family. It was probably just his grandmother, and by the time he's an adult, he's got no one. And this character, he's very smarmy.
Yeah. Like you like Colin at first, but by the end of the movie, you realize how like cutthroat he is.
Yeah.
Just like he just takes out everybody because he's like the fear of getting caught is just so ingrained in him that it just turns him into like pretty much a sociopath. Yeah,
exactly. And so like the special unit that Billy is a part of is headed by Mark Wahlberg, who plays Dingham, and Martin Sheen, who plays Queenan. And Mark Wahlberg's character, he just doesn't give any fucks about anything. No. He's just consistently cussing everybody out.
Yeah.
And I think Queenan is the only one he has any real respect for, and that's like really like tiptoeing around it.
Yeah, when I was watching it last night, I was wondering if like Queenan, whenever he first like assigned Dingham to like be part of his unit, if he told him like, I need you to be a dick.
Right.
So I can be the fatherly figure.
So, do you know what we do here? My section?
Sir, yes, sir, I have an idea.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's say you have no idea and leave it at that, okay? No idea. Zip. None. If we had an idea about what we do, we would not be good at what we do, would we? We would be cunts. Are you calling us cunts?
Staff Sergeant Dignam has a style of his own. I'm afraid we all have to get used to it.
I think in the first scene you meet Dingham, he drops cunt like 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's just sitting there. This is literally like the moment that he meets Billy, and he's just insulting him, just insult after insult after insult. Next we've got Vera Farmiga. I can never say her last name.
I can never do her last name.
Farmiga,
either.
I assume.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, Mrs. Bates. She plays Madeline, and she is the psychiatrist for, and I'm assuming she's assigned specifically for the cops.
Yeah.
So because she's doing like public service, she mentions at some point, and Billy is assigned to her, and she happens to meet Colin in the elevator. He picks her up, and they start dating. Then she has this relationship with Billy, and it's just like it's so weird. It's so weird. There's so much of this like double life that everybody is living, that everyone is living basically, because you've got like both Leo and Matt. I never want to call them by their character names. Sullivan and Billy are both leading these double lives, and then they've got Madeline involved in the mix too.
Yeah,
and they're both basically they're double agents for the same 2 entities, which is such a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
But it's really cool to watch it happen.
Yeah. And
especially since where you think that, where it's obvious that Billy should be the bad guy and Colin should be the good guy. And it's such a after a while. And, and there's a bunch of other really great actors in here, like Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
Like, I love that dude.
I do too. I think I like his comedic work way more than his dramatic work.
Oh,
but
yeah,
he's
definitely.
still really great in this movie.
Yeah, and it's like it's kind of a bit of a comedy that he's going on in this one too.
Yeah, like whenever whenever he's talking about like Jimmy Papa's the guy who killed the 2 guys from Providence, quote unquote, killed the 2 guys from Providence, and he's explaining it to Alec Baldwin. He's like, who benefits from that? He's like, fuck it, who cares? It's tied up with a bow.
Right.
And then Alec Baldwin's like, I think you're a cop, my son. And then does the sign of the cross on him.
Yes, he's awesome. And there was a point where I think when they're at a stakeout or something, he's like real excited because they think they're going to catch the guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm going to have a smoke. You want to have a smoke with me? He's like, you're probably one of those help nuts. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
And he walks off.
Yeah, you could, if you played a drinking game, how many times someone tells you someone to go fuck themselves in this movie, you would be so drunk.
Be trashed before like the climax even happens. So, I mean, let's get into the movie. Like we said, we are pretty much introduced to Jack Nicholson's character as just gross. He's just, at first, it's like, oh, he's buying groceries for, the boys. Like, yeah, and then he's like, the next breath, he's, objectifying a girl who's probably about 15, 16 years old.
Well, you also have the whole monologue, because he opens up with the monologue talking about, like, the different cultures in the city.
Yeah.
And using
like
derogatory
yeah,
words.
exactly. Just every single, like, derogatory slur. It was like, okay, I think we got them all. Thanks.
Yeah. He had a checklist.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about all these people. So, so I guess, were there any standout scenes in this movie for you? Because it's 2.5 hour opus. Like, why do you love this so much? Like, why do you like it so much? Why do you enjoy it?
Like I said, I'm a really big Scorsese fan, and I think this is probably his best crime drama. Like, a lot of people say Goodfellas, but I think this is better than Goodfellas. Just because he was really, really attached to Goodfellas in the way that, like, he witnessed it. Like, because the Goodfellas is about the Irish mob. That's what he grew around. Like, he grew up in Little Italy in New York. He knew guys like, Ray Liotta's character. Like, he hung out with those people. The only reason why he wasn't in the mob is because he was... he had asthma. Like, he had really bad asthma.
Really?
Yeah, so he couldn't run or do anything. Like, if he had to run from the cops, he was just going to have an asthma attack. Yeah. Well, he made the comment, like, whenever he was he grew up in Queens for, like, a couple years.
His mob name would be Wheezy.
Yeah. But, like, his first couple years were in Queens, and he said, like, Queens compared to, like, Little Italy was like heaven.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, I could have, I could go to the tree, I could go to the park and see the trees. I mean, I couldn't stay long because I'd have an asthma attack, but it was there. I liked it. So, but this one, I feel like it was a little bit more because he was more detached from it. It wasn't as, like, in his heart. He was able to, like, focus on story, I guess, a little bit more. There was no personal what's the word I'm looking for? Like, there was no personal investment in this one as much, so he could just kind of focus on, like, telling the story. And, like, the movies like Casino and Goodfellas, like, were super necessary for him to make this movie because he was able to put himself in those movies, like, personality wise, and he was able to perfect them. And then he can take it to The Departed and go to a different culture, which was the Irish culture, which is very similar to Italian culture because they're both Roman Catholic, but still...
There's something a little... I think that Italian culture is probably a little bit more flashy than the Irish culture, which is very apparent in just the stylistics of this movie, of this film, like of The Departed, as compared to Goodfellas or Casino, because there's a lot of flash, there's a lot of the suits and what everybody's wearing and the things they're doing. There's just the cars they're driving. Everything is just like flashy and just like expensive, and this is what we're about. But with The Departed, like there are even moments where Jack Nicholson, like even in his private moments, he's got those like fancy silky robes and stuff like that. But there are moments where he's like dressed like just somebody's old grandpa who's got like Alzheimer's or something. It's like, why is Pap out this late?
Yeah, I mean the scene where spoilers, Colin kills him. He's wearing a shirt that says Irish on it. Right.
Just that simple.
Yeah.
And so it's just like. And just everything about this film is just a little more toned down visually. There's a lot more muted colors. It's not very... I don't think you could really pinpoint what kind of car anybody's really driving. In this one, there's not a bunch of like bling or fancy pants stuff. I think the most stylistic scene is when Jack is at the opera with his two girls, and like things get really creative, like with like the lighting, and then there's all this red lighting. I don't know if that was a symbolism for him just being the devil himself.
Yeah, it was kind of like hell because in this movie Scorsese takes a lot from like pre-code like Warner Brothers gangster movies. I can't remember the song that they're singing in the opera, but in the original Scarface, that's the song that he whistles right before he kills people.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of references, just like in this movie, in Scarface, the original one. There's X's whenever he's about to kill someone. There's X's all over this movie.
Really?
Whenever people die, yeah, like whenever they throw Queenan off the roof as he's falling, all the windows in the background have X's.
on them.
Yeah, they did that on purpose.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's a nice catch. That's, interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that.
This is one of the reasons why I love Scorsese so much, because he's a huge film nerd.
That's
like
awesome.
A ginormous film nerd.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, getting deeper into that scene with like because it almost seems unnecessary, but I know there has to be a deeper meaning behind it of when at the opera and then afterwards, like seriously, like the facial expression of Jack and like it gets really demonic.
Yeah.
At that point, and he's like tossing cocaine around and the lighting just gets really crazy and it's just so weird. Like it almost seems like we all think that, okay, this is probably, 7 minutes or whatever that he could have snipped out of this film, but I'm sure there was a reason.
I think what it is because like, we stated that like Jack Nicholson's character is just a horrible fucker. But I think it still comes down to the fact that he's still kind of charming. So I feel like Scorsese throws those scenes in every once in a while. Not so much at the end, because he just loses his fucking mind at the end, so it doesn't really matter. But before that, he throws those scenes in there just to remind you, like, no, you're not actually supposed to like this person. Right. Because everyone's really likable in this movie. Like, everyone. Like, Mr. French is really likable. Colin's really likable, but like, until the end. Colin's, like, a very likable character. Like, at one point, you're kind of rooting for both Billy and Colin. You're like, oh, I don't want them to find out about each other.
He's almost like a little American, like the all-American boy kind of thing. He's got those, like all-American boy good looks and the charm, and he laughs at all your jokes, and you laugh at his jokes, and But yeah, I guess you're right. It is a good reminder that we're supposed to hate this character.
Yeah, because there's nothing in Scorsese movies that are there just for the fuck of it. There's always a reason. Even if you don't understand exactly what the reason is, like, Scorsese has him in there, like, for him. Like, in the first scene, whenever Billy gets assigned to the special unit, whenever Queenan writes down on the piece of paper, he made, I think something, Officer Duffy or something, like, he was the guy who came in, he was the liaison, he's a retired statey, and he was the guy that was there for consulting. Okay. He made him come up and ask him how much money is he going to be giving him. Right. And we never know how much money he's going to give, but, like, Martin Scorsese needed to know how much money they were offering Billy just for himself, so he could tell the story. Huh. It ended up being $50,000, actually. Shit. Yeah.
How do we? I totally missed that number.
Yeah. Well, not that you don't know, but in the special features. Like,
okay.
He says it's $50,000. Like, that's what they agreed on, because originally it was $20,000. He's like, that doesn't seem like enough, and he's like, well, what about $100,000? He's like,
too much.
And and Scorsese's like, no, I'm not paying him that. Like, he said, I'm not paying him that, and then he went down to $50,000 and split the difference. He's like, okay, that's good. Yeah.
That's perfect. Because it is a question of exactly why would Billy be going through all this? Yeah. Because he did want to be a cop. They give him the breakdown of, we can't let you do that because of who you are and where you come from. But like, it just seems so like, I guess it was just to a point where I got nothing else. Yeah. I got nothing else to give. Like, his family is not. His mother just died, so he didn't have anybody else, and he didn't want anything to do with anybody else in his family, with the scene where his mother was dying, and he's talking to his uncle. He tells him, that when she's dead, that's it. That's the end of our connection. So I guess, $50,000 is a good number to go undercover. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure I would do that.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about this movie is they really go into, like, the psychology and what it's like to be an undercover, like how he had like kind of the drug seeking behavior, which like normally is a bad thing, but you can't blame him for trying to find some sort of relief.
Right, exactly. Like that's not something we get all the time in cinema or in TV when we're talking about, when we see people going undercover or cops going undercover. Like, how the fuck do you deal with that kind of stuff? Like, he is risking his life literally every day. Yeah. And, just like, he's terrified he's going to get found out. And I do love the scene is when he first goes to see Vera, the psychiatrist, and where he's like telling her everything, and then he's like, you know what, to be honest, I just want some Valium.
You want the truth? Valium.
Oh, You know, if you lied, you would have an easier time getting what you wanted.
What's that say about what you do for a
I
living?
just think we should have a few more meetings before we even talk about prescriptions.
Look. I'm having panic attacks, all right? The other night I thought I was having a fucking heart attack. I puked in a trash barrel on the way over here. I haven't slept for fucking weeks.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true, all right? I said something fucking true. I want some fucking pills, and you're gonna what? You're gonna close my file?
I didn't
Is that
mean
what
to
you're
close
gonna
your
do?
file. I know.
I thought I was supposed to tell the truth here,
You
if
are.
only fucking
You
here.
are,
Christ,
yes,
when a guy
okay.
comes in here against every instinct of privacy, of self-reliance that he has, and what do? What do, huh? You send him off on the street to score smack? Is that what you do? You're fucking ridiculous. Two pills? Great. Why don't you just give me a bottle of scotch and a handgun to blow my fucking head off? Are we done here with this psychiatry bullshit?
what? You can
what the
leave.
fuck did I just put myself through? I'm fucking out of here. Hey, what if that was a legitimate threat?
I don't feel like she's the best therapist.
Yeah, I watched this with my girlfriend Juliana, and she's gone to therapists and whatnot, and like she hated that scene just because like of the way that she was treating him. It was just like he was coming for help, like he needed help, and the way that she was so combative with him, like
Right.
it really bothered her.
As rightfully so.
Yeah.
Because even when he left, she gives him like the 2 pills.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? How about I'll just go and blow my brains out. And then he leaves and he doubles back. And what if that was a legitimate excuse?
Yeah.
Think about that shit.
Yeah.
So a legitimate threat. But yeah. So Leah or Billy is not dealing with this well. He is like unraveling terribly, and understandably so. And it's just like he's got. And it's still like there's no one that's really looking out for his best interests. Like no one is really.
I got the impression that Queenan is. He legitimately cares, but Queenan's
Hands are tied.
Yeah, he's between like a rock and a hard place. He knows that like he doesn't want to put Billy through this shit, but he knows that they need to build a case, and they still don't have enough just because of how big Frank Costello is.
Right.
They need a shit ton of evidence to make it stick.
And then we find out that Costello is basically a protected FBI informant.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, that's why they've been having so much trouble
Yeah.
making a case stick.
Yeah.
It's really like it's such a well written script.
Yeah.
And like everything is so intertwined, and it does make it difficult to catch everything the first couple times you watch it. Just because, and like I said, I've seen it a few times before, but this time is the first time I really just like paid attention. I tried to pay attention to like everything that was happening, and tried to like at the end, I almost felt like I needed like a graph board with like strings and stuff attaching people. Okay, no, this guy is that guy, and he's going over here, and this is part of this tree, and he's but it's just a well written script. And I had very little problems with it. I think the only problems, and this is surprisingly because I generally really enjoy Vera and other things, but her come and go accent
Yeah. She struggled with that one.
was distracting.
Yeah.
There was a lot of coming in and coming out of it. It's like, are you from Boston or are you not? I mean, it's cool if you're not.
Yeah.
Can we just not?
She didn't really have to be from Boston.
No.
Like, she just had to go to UMass. She could have been from somewhere else, and she just fell in love with Boston.
Right.
So she stayed there. Like, that makes complete sense. It's not really a problem. Like Leo and Matt had to have the accent, but Damon's from Boston, so it wasn't really hard for him to slip into that. And I know that they had a coach for Leo. Which he
really?
did. Yeah, he did a good job with the accent.
I think he does really well with accents in general. Like I said, like he has turned into like a really great actor, and I do enjoy watching him a lot. I think even before that, Basketball Diaries was before Titanic.
Yes, that sounds about right.
And he kind of got derailed with Titanic, I guess, because he was coming up. Like he did What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and everybody respected him for that. And then I don't know, it was before that. Maybe Romeo and Juliet was before that, or maybe it was after Basketball Diaries.
Romeo and Juliet, I think, was 97, 98, around there.
So I think Basketball Diaries is probably before that, and so Romeo and Juliet, and then Titanic is what got him into that heartthrob status, and he's been trying to shake it off ever since, I guess.
Yeah. Understandably, because it's very typecasty.
Yeah, and it's like career suicide essentially, because once you've grown up and you're not cutesy sexy anymore, and there's, the teenagers stop wanting you, then, I mean, you really don't have that much more to hang on to unless you're George Clooney, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's like
Silver Fox.
Because he just, like, that's just been his thing forever. One of the scenes that I really enjoyed was the cat and mouse scene where Sullivan and Billy are Billy is chasing Sullivan after the porn theater.
Yeah.
Where he starts to follow him, and you see like they're dressed exactly the same, and and it's great visuals of they do a lot with the mirror images and everything, and the reflections, and you're seeing everything, and it's just, I think it was a really well shot scene and well thought out and choreographed with just how everything was going, and especially because they were essentially the same person.
Yeah. It's a really important scene, too, because it's the first time you see what Colin is willing to do to make sure he does not get caught.
Yeah, he just stabbed just a rando.
Yeah.
Just was, and just left him there.
Yeah.
It was just really jive.
Yeah. Well, also another thing about this movie that is is really important is the cross-cutting between Billy and Colin's lives,
right.
And how it's kind of showing that Billy's doing the right thing by being undercover, and he's living in Southie and living in these shitty conditions, whereas Colin is essentially a horrible person. Lots of people have probably died because of the tips that he's given Frank, and then you see that he's living this amazing life. He lives right by Beacon Hill. He can see the State House is gleaming golden, or
right.
Whatever you call it. I can't remember what it's called. Rotunda. There's the word.
Golden Rotunda.
Rotunda. He has this gorgeous girlfriend, and then you cut back to Billy, who's taking OxyContin just so he can survive the night.
Yeah, exactly. Drinking, which I guess we didn't really establish that he wasn't a drinker, but by the end, he is a drinker. He's chugging
understandably
bottles.
so. Yeah,
he's chugging bottles of wine.
Yeah.
By the evening.
And you get the impression it's he's just doing this so he can just be even. That's all he wants. He just wants to be normal.
Because you got to be on edge all the time.
Yeah.
Every time somebody says something to you, every time Frank calls him in for a private meeting, every time it's is this going to be it? Is this the time where he figures out who I am, and is he going to whack him?
Well, he also worked with Mr. French, who is as much of a sociopath Frank is, Mr. French is a sociopath. No, he's probably more of a psychopath. He just has no remorse. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, there is no emotion drawn. He doesn't get angry about anything. He just does what has to happen, and it's just and you can see that the scene. I don't think it's the first time that they meet, but maybe the second time, where Billy comes in and Frenchie is sitting behind him, and Frank is telling him what he wants him to do and stuff, and then I don't remember exactly.
Pulls out a hand.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one where that breakfast scene, and then Billy's looking over his shoulder, and then at some point Frank is like, "Frenchie, I need you to do something." And he's just staring at Billy.
Yeah.
Something could happen right now, and he had to snap him out of it. That's just could you imagine just sitting across from somebody at breakfast, and he pulls out a hand, he digs all in there, he takes the ring, and so that was the first inclination, or one of the first inclinations that Billy gets, that this guy is not one to be trifled with.
No, not at all.
And that was immediately when he's like, "No wire, I can't do this wire thing.
Yeah,
I gotta call you guys." So you've got a lot of notes, I see. Is there what else would you like to?
Let's see. I also
bring up?
I was gonna bring up about the camera movement and the choices in the camera movement that Scorsese makes, because his camera movement's really, really subtle, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Whenever there's the scene between whenever Dignam becomes a human in that first scene and actually tries to talk to him like a human being, the way that the camera moves, where it stays static on Leo, but it's slowly panning right to left on Dignam, and it cuts back and forth to that. It's a really beautiful way, and it's also just kind of it gives you the sense that Dignam's always thinking, he's always working, he's always going, whereas Billy, his life is kind of, what he thought his life was going to be is kind of ended. It's staying static there, and he's just okay, well, this is what my dreams of being a state police officer are now over, in the traditional way that I thought I was going to be a state police officer.
Right.
So
yeah, that's good observation. That was a good one. And another thing that I do enjoy about Scorsese is his attention to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
That always comes in, because a lot of times, those things can make or break a film, and I just really love the choices of, Rolling Stones or like Shipping Out to Boston, or that Dropkick Murphys, and even just like the operatic number that was in there, just to me, seemed random, but apparently, there was a meaning behind it, and it's just really just well thought out, and it's extra entertaining.
Yeah, Dropkick Murphys is like, I feel like was the perfect choice for like the Irish mob. Yeah, like that song just like synthesizes the Irish mob like so well. It
incites something in you. Yeah. Like I immediately hear it, and you're just like, oh my god, yes, I want to be a part of something.
Yeah, and like also too that scene whenever they bring in Shipping Off to Boston the first time, where you're showing the like the mini story of Billy in jail and how he does those trucks from left to right to tell the story.
Yeah.
And it's still the cross cutting between like Billy in jail, then you cut to Colin like living in this great house, and then cut back to Billy, and it's just like it keeps doing these left to rights, just like how giving you like the perception that time is moving very quickly.
Right.
And like, yeah, it's so great. I love his camera movement. Like he also like the way he uses really, really super traditional filmmaking techniques like the iris. Whenever Colin first shows up to the state police headquarters,
when they start off really, it's just that iris that is just like on him, and then it widens up into the bigger picture.
And then he uses it again later whenever Colin is assigned to internal affairs to find out who the mole is, to essentially find himself, where it starts like you have that shot of him in his office, and then the iris comes in on him just to give you that feeling that he's alone.
Yeah, and being closed in on at this point.
Like no one uses that shit anymore, but it was super common like the silent film era in like the 30s.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, it doesn't get used that often anymore, and sometimes if people do use it, they overuse it. Because there's like there's the threat of that someone's just going to keep doing that. That's their transition.
Yeah.
Where I was saying in and where we're coming out, and it's just like no. It needs to have some specifics behind it.
Yeah. Also, too, the sound of the cell phones opening up too. Was like kind of like a sword being unsheathed.
Yeah, like shing, and then there's a closing it. It was the same. Yeah, it was really. It was kind of jarring.
Yeah.
And for a reason, because every time someone was on their cell phone, there was somebody giving up some information that they shouldn't have been, or interesting stuff. What else you got, Nick?
Let's see. This was just like a fun fact is Leonardo DiCaprio felt really, really awkward beating up the Italian guys from Providence in front of Martin Scorsese. Which I just thought that was funny. He was just like, yeah. Because, I mean, that scene is kind of like, if you know anything about Scorsese, it's kind of like, I guess you would say like a seminal scene, because it's like it's almost like him closing the book on his old,
right,
because I don't think he really has much interest in doing any more gangster movies like in a traditional sense. Like he hasn't done a gangster movie since The Departed, and I feel like The Departed's kind of like almost his final say on it. He seems to be more interested in historical stuff at this point, because he did Shutter Island, The Wolf of Wall Street,
which he's doing like those are magnificent.
Yeah,
and I think it's good. It's is it better to burn out or fade away?
Yeah,
like because he doesn't want to be known. I would imagine is just the guy that's got like the mob stories to tell, and he's done his take.
Yeah,
and it's like, how do I up myself?
Yeah, and it's like whenever DiCaprio beats the shit out of those guys, like it's just like it's kind of like that's it. Like
we're closing
a book on that. This was another part of my life.
We're putting it to bed.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a great scene. I really liked Leo's fight scenes. There were only 3 like really good ones.
Yeah.
The first one where the guy's like, "Are you drinking cranberry juice? What do you got your period?"
Yeah. And then he just smashes it. Yeah.
It's great. And then that one, the guys from Providence, and then towards the end, where he's finally got Colin.
Yeah.
And he's just like got him on the roof, and he just gives him like this 5 or 6 just blows with his elbow to his face, and it's just great. And I just really get such a kick out of those kind of things.
It's also really good to show too that like whenever Billy was like fighting with the mob, he fought with his fists, but in that scene he actually uses like
police tactics.
Where he like uses his elbow, because you're not supposed to punch someone in the face with a closed fist. Most people don't seem to realize that.
No,
you're supposed to use open palm, or you're supposed to use your elbow.
Right.
But yeah, like I like that little touch. Like there was all those little touches.
Yeah.
Also, too, I have there's really good comedic tempos in this movie, because this is a really, really tense movie, like super tense movie, like understandably so. But there's still good comedic moments in it to break the tension.
Right.
Like one of the best ones is whenever Colin calls Billy, because he sends him the files that Frank left to him in his will, essentially. And he's just like, like, he trusted me better than anyone, you fucking faggot.
Right.
And then he's like, was the sound quality okay? I was a little worried about that. I'm just like that kind of stuff. Like, and like, Frank does a good job of that too. Like, they give him a lot of comedic beats. And same with Colin. Colin gets a lot of comedic beats. And
Alec Baldwin, and even Mark Wahlberg, when he's there, just like his ranting.
Yeah, like the beginning of the movie is actually really funny.
Yeah.
If you like look at it, it's a really funny movie, and then the humor goes away as it should, but they still interject that humor every once in a while. And like that's one of the things that like I always bring up to people. It's like if I've written like dramatic scripts, and I've gotten criticism saying like there's jokes in them. I'm like, well, yeah, there has to be.
No, yeah. That's definitely a great point, because yes, you can have a dramatic script, a dramatic movie, but it doesn't have to be just drama after drama after tragedy after drama after downbeat after, it's just there needs to be a break. Your audience needs a break for a couple moments, at least, just for a moment, just to breathe, just to, be taken out, reminded that, this isn't happening for, that kind of thing, or just, just a little lightness, You don't need, it doesn't need to be slapstick.
Yeah, exactly.
Just, a couple light moments.
Well, it's one of those things that, like, if you look at it, if you were, like, to track it, like, it's dramatic. Like, you have all this dramatic tension. You have all of, like, this depression, essentially, this sadness. And then if you throw a little bit of comedy in it, just like a one line, it lightens it up, and then you give them that break so they can continue.
Right.
It's essentially like being underwater. Like, you're underwater for a while, you need to come up for air. Like, a comedic beat in a dramatic script like this is someone coming up from air, and then they can continue to do whatever they need to do underwater.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. Because there's like a couple of films that I basically feel like are soul blackeners.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that. Like Requiem for a Dream. I will never, ever watch that movie again in my life. Like that,
Yeah.
I cried for like a solid hour after I saw that movie. And it was just, because there was no comedic, nothing to lighten anything. It was just tragedy after drama after tragedy after hardship. And it's just, by the time you're done with the movie, you're just like, oh my God, I want to kill something.
Yeah, because like the basis of all good scripts is conflict. Like you need to have conflict for like any script. But sometimes I feel like writers take that too far, and like if you have too much conflict, at least for me, I don't know if anyone else feels this way, at a certain point I'm like, okay, they've suffered enough, like seriously, like we get it, we don't need to keep adding conflict on top of conflict on top of conflict. Like if you can't tell the story with like a set amount of conflict and you just have to keep piling it on, you're not really telling a good story. You're kind of taking it from like a mathematical point of view, and like just like this is what it comes down to mathematically, so therefore if I just keep adding conflict to it, people are gonna like it. I'm like, no, people are gonna get tired and no one's gonna want to watch it. Yeah, you might make a good movie, but like you said, like Requiem for a Dream, you never want to watch it again. Yeah, it's a good movie. People love that movie.
It was great, well done, like well written, well shot, but it's just like I can't take that. Yeah.
I'm more interested in movies that have like staying power and like having the rewatchability and like
exactly.
Yeah. Like this movie has a little bit of problem just with the cell phones. Just because, like it dates it a little bit, but like if that's the worst thing that you can say
outside
about
of that, outside of the cell phones dating it, like you definitely could, this can stand the test of time for quite some time. Yeah. It's a really great movie. And it's like, there are also the movies, and sometimes you can't, like the ones that have like these really big twists in them, and you talk about rewatchability. There are certain ones that they do it well enough, like Fight Club, for example, which, I can definitely watch that like over and over and over again. Like if it's on TV, I will stop and watch it. But as opposed to The Game with Michael Douglas, and I forget who directed that one.
Oh, is that Fincher too?
I think it might be.
Yeah, I think it was one of his early movies.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was like way early. That was a great movie. It had an amazing twist. I can never watch it again, just because I know it now, and that's it. There wasn't enough, I guess, like comedic lightheart in there to bring me back to want to rewatch it again.
Yeah,
like Fight Club. There's so much like funny crap that goes on in that movie, and just like, and there's also all these little things in the background and like the setting that you want to revisit or that you'll catch again. So yeah, like I'm more interested in films that, like, yes, most definitely. I enjoyed that a lot, and I would definitely watch it again. And The Departed, perfect example of that. Even though it's 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit like. At the same time, there's nothing you can really cut from that movie.
No, it was all there for a purpose, and which is why I don't mind, because Scorsese's films do tend to run longer than most, and I don't mind it. Like, I honestly don't. It's just, sometimes when it's time to go back and watch them, like I just can't. You don't have the time for it, or you fall asleep, which is fine. But yeah, like. He puts everything in there for a reason. Like every beat, every shot, every like camera movement he does, he has his reasonings behind it, which makes him one of the best directors in the world that we've got. He's just, and what does he put out, like one film every like
couple years? Yeah,
which is great. We're not oversaturated with his stuff. He handpicks his people that that he wants to work with right now, like Leo is his golden boy. But he's doing great with the roles that he's given him, and he's making those films extremely interesting.
He tends, like most good actors, actors, like most good directors, he tends to keep the same people. Like earlier in his career it was De Niro, and then it became and then it was also Harvey Keitel. He worked with Harvey Keitel quite a bit, and then it became DiCaprio as of late.
Who would you say are are a couple of your favorite actors?
I like Johnny Depp a lot. I actually like Matt Damon. Johnny Depp a little less so as of late, just because like some of the choices he's made.
Some of the choices he's made lately are questionable.
Yeah, it goes back to his like, I don't really give a fuck. I just want to have fun. Right. So like I respect that. It's just like I can't really like relate to what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure him having kids, like I think that probably is what shifted a lot of things. I didn't see Into the Woods, but I haven't heard anything fabulous about his role in particular. Yeah, I think like the last few films of his, I just haven't really gotten into.
Have you seen Tusk?
No.
He's in Tusk.
Is he?
Yes.
Is he like uncredited? Cause,
he's credited as Guy Lapointe. Actually,
how is that movie?
Fucked up. Very, very fucked up. It's a fucked up movie. His daughter's actually in it because Lily Rose is best friends with Kevin Smith's daughter, Harley Quinn.
Kevin Smith's daughter's name is Harley Quinn?
Yep.
Bless his geek heart.
It was actually his wife. His wife
really?
named her, yeah. Yeah, he was the one. He said that he was the one, like, right as she was being born. He was like, do we really want to go with Harley Quinn? Like, seriously? But yeah, no, she's in it. Like, Tusk is an interesting movie because it's the tonal shifts in it are really, really extreme. It goes from like scene to scene, like the scenes alternate. It goes from a comedic scene to a super fucked up scene to a comedic scene, back and forth. Like, I went to go see it with my girlfriend Juliana and another member of Sinister Dream, Megan, and they're both empaths. They're both like really empathic, and it fucked with them so bad because it was jarring them around,
too much up and down.
Yeah, it was just jerking them around the entire time.
Aw. Okay, so like Damon, Johnny Depp, and
I like DiCaprio. I'm trying to think because I know there's the one actor that I go to and I can't think.
Yeah,
of
is there like one actor that you're just like, I will watch everything with this person?
No, I'm not that way with actors. I'm like that with directors.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's like I'll watch anything Fincher does. I'll watch anything. I'll definitely watch anything Rian Johnson does. I love Rian Johnson. Yeah, I like Joseph Gordon-Levitt quite a bit too. But that's probably because he works with Rian Johnson a lot.
And he's like, his filmography is like beefing up quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of great roles.
I'm interested to see if he'll have a part in episode 8, since Rian Johnson's writing and directing that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. I bet he would love to do it, as you know, most people his age would. I'm sure just be like, yes, please put me in there. Put me in, boss. So yeah, so basically, like, everything starts to come to a head by the time, you know, the end of this movie. It's just the most surprising thing for me was Leo. Billy getting it. He's making his arrest. He's bringing Colin in, and even Colin's like, you know, just kill me. And he's like, you know, I'm gonna get this done. We're gonna do this right.
Yeah.
And then his fucking partner comes in, and just the elevator door opens, and he gets popped in the head. And the first time I saw it, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I didn't either. Like, especially because, like, you know, like you said, Colin, it's interesting because I think that scene, like the elevator scene, sums up Colin's character really, really well.
I can't wait to see you explain this to a fucking Suffolk County jury, you fucking cocksucker. This is gonna be fucking fun. Just fucking kill me. Just fucking kill me.
I am killing you.
Because, like, the really big theme of this movie is lies. Like, it's liar, you're a liar, lying, and all that kind of stuff. And while you're going down at the top of the elevator, Colin's just like,
he's still talking shit.
Yeah, he's like, I'd like to see you explain this to a Suffolk County jury, you fucking asshole. And as it goes down, he keeps talking, and then there's a pause, and he's just like, just fucking kill me. Just fucking kill me. And then Leo, like, just, like, looks at him and looks forward, and he's like, I am. And I'm like, that's a fucking great line. And then boom, his head just gets blown off.
I was so upset.
Yeah. Yeah, when I watched it with Juliana last night, because it was the first time she saw it.
Oh.
She has never, that was her first Scorsese movie. She never saw a Scorsese movie.
How has that, how
she doesn't see movies. Not until she started dating me did she see movies.
Okay. I'm just, you know, it's curious as to how, you know, Scorsese is one of your favorite directors, and
I have to wait. I have to do those, like, Scorsese movies are very violent and all that kind of stuff. So,
because
like,
she's
she
so
can
empathic.
yeah. So I have to, like, pace it right. I knew this one was gonna be okay because there wasn't anything, like, there was no, like, sexual assault or anything like that. It was just a violent.
Not too many
movie.
people getting, like, chopped up all over the place, and not that much blood splatter, actually.
Yeah. So I had to make sure that, like, I have to make sure she's in the right mindset to watch a Scorsese movie. Like, I know I can't show her Raging Bull. Raging Bull would fuck her up, and I'm also a little worried about showing her Taxi Driver because I don't know how well she would do with Taxi Driver. Also,
yeah, I don't know. Maybe she doesn't need to see that one.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So I just gotta kind of pace it out for her.
That's very sensitive of you.
Yeah.
You're a good boyfriend.
Thanks. But yeah, that was the reason why. But yeah, whenever she was watching it, she's like, I knew from the beginning that he was gonna die, and I didn't want him to die. I was like, don't kill him, don't kill him, don't kill him. And then whenever he gets his head blown off, she's like, I fucking saw it, but
I just didn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
That was depressing. But then when we think that Colin gets all his glory and he's gonna win, but Wahlberg comes back, or Dingham comes back.
Yeah. Just call him Marky Mark. I always call him Mark.
Marky Mark comes back without his funky bunch and finishes the job, and which it was just fucking perfect. Like, he rolls in there with, like, the booties on his shoes and gloves on and a scully cap, and, like, no evidence here, and pops him. And then that very last scene, you know, the very last shot, there is the golden dome and a little rat,
just
like, runs across the thing, just walks across. It's like, perfect. Yeah, this is definitely just a great film that, you know, you can revisit, like, every couple years or so, and still be thoroughly entertained every time. So with that, what star rating would you give it, 1 through 5?
5. It's
my
favorite Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely, like, I've seen a good bit of Scorsese's movies, and like I said, I think this is probably his best. I feel like this is him at his apex. It's also, like, the one with the least amount of continuity errors in it. That seems to bother a lot of people, but it doesn't necessarily bother me because I like the fact that there's a lot of continuity errors in his movies because he doesn't give a shit about continuity. He gives a shit about the story being told properly. So he's going to pick the right take regardless.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing about, like, Goodfellas. There's tons of continuity errors in Goodfellas. But,
Really?
like, yeah, like, you know, like, there's a, you know, a cup here and then it's not there.
Oh, stuff like that.
Like, the little continuity errors like that, which some people, a lot of people who, like aren't super into film, like, try to point those out. Like, see, I'm into film. I know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
yeah,
you're into negativity. That's what you're into.
But, like, that doesn't bother me because all he cares about is the best performance, and he cares about the narrative thread of the movie and, like, what tells the narrative thread the best.
Right.
So that's why. But, like, this one has the least amount of it. It might also have to do with the fact that he has, like, such grade A talent in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
like, even just like the sidemen,
Yeah.
you know, his Frank's goons.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, his dudes. And there's one guy that just pops up, and I think he's like in the van at some point. I don't think he really has any other speaking lines, but he was in, I want to say, Rescue Me.
Mm-hmm.
He was on that show Rescue Me, and he like, I think now he plays a lot of like Boston cop or Boston kind of characters. But yeah, like, he just really, he does, like, he picks like really great, he gets a great cast just all around, and there's no small characters in the film. Like, they all have their place and they all have a meaning behind it. I think I would give it 4.5. I mean, I do really enjoy the film, but I think, and even though I don't mind the length much I'm watching it, is that length is what keeps me from, like, watching it more often than I do. It's just like, I don't have that kind of time. So
that's understandable. Like, I mean, like, that's the reason why I didn't see Wolf of Wall Street in theaters.
Oh, God.
So it's like, I don't have 3 hours. I can
just sit there in
devote.
the theater like that. Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, I had to wait for it to be on Netflix so I could watch it in pieces.
Yeah.
And it's a brilliant fucking movie. It's an amazing movie.
Crazy.
But it's just, I had to watch it in pieces.
Yeah, that the Quaalude scene between Leo and Jonah.
I love that scene because it shows it from, like, his perspective that, like, oh no, I made it down, okay. And then they go back and they show that, like, no, you didn't. You fucked so much shit up.
So you really did not do this right.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, I'm sure you are down to watch it again.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yes, same here. Okay, so, I mean, basically, we're kind of wrapping up, but at the end, I do beg the question. I started to visit the Bechdel Test.
Mm-hmm.
This movie does not.
No,
This movie fails it.
No, most Scorsese's movies really, they don't.
And for those of you who are not familiar with the Bechdel Test is, it is the rule of thumb for film and TV is that are there 2 named female characters in the film? Do they talk to each other? And do they talk to each other about something other than a man? There is 1 named female character in this film.
I do feel like the Bechdel Test should be amended for short films, only because most short films don't have character names anyways.
Truth.
So, like, I feel like that's the one exception that, like, for short films, it's okay if there's 2 female characters that don't have names, because a lot of times no one has names in short films. Like, if you look at the credits, it's like blonde girl, blonde guy, like that kind of stuff. Like, I usually will go. I'll have that leeway for that, but beyond that, that's about it. Otherwise,
so we'll say films longer than 45 minutes.
Yeah, totally. If you have enough time where it's not awkward for someone to say someone else's name, then yes, you should. But if it's like a 4-minute film where it's like if you say someone's name, it's just gonna kind of feel out of place.
Yeah,
unless it's like the titular character or something like that. I feel like it's okay. Like, it can still pass the Bechdel test if you have 2 unnamed women talking about something other than a man.
Right.
Especially, like I said, most short films don't have names in general. So.
Right. True that. Well, also, I don't know, and we can cut this out if you would rather not just talk about, I saw Jules's GoFundMe.
Yeah.
Would you like to give a shout out?
Oh, she got it.
Oh, she did? Good.
Yeah, she
Congratulations.
got the GoFundMe,
Well, can you tell us a little bit about it? Just because I think it's not something a lot of people really pay attention to or think about. And you don't hear this plea for help too often.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people don't. Some people can't empathize with it.
Yeah.
But there are people that, you know, that totally get it. And I do have another friend that he refuses to use his given first name because of the negative connotation that is formed in his life.
Yeah.
So,
essentially, my girlfriend, her last name she refuses to use because her dad is a cocksucker. Is the best way to put it. He's just a horrible, horrible human being. He was abusive. He abandoned them and all that kind of stuff. It got to the point that the state said that, like, CYS told her mother, if you don't take them out of this house, we will. Wow. And get them away. Like, it was so bad that, like, for I think most of her teenage years until she was 18, they were not allowed to leave the county of Allegheny without like express written permission for like an extended period of time. Wow. Because they were so afraid that he was going to come and kidnap her and her siblings. Wow. So yeah, like, so she started a GoFundMe because she wanted to change her last name, and which she got it in a day.
Congratulations,
so.
Jules.
Yeah. So because she needed like $160 to, I think it's to file the paperwork, and it was just like just enough that it was like too much for her sort of thing. So
I mean, we get it. Like, you guys are, I mean, you're still very young, and sometimes that kind of money, just unexpectedly, just out of blood. Ooh, wait, we can't really do that. But yeah. So she got it in a day.
Yeah, she actually she's $5 over actually.
Awesome. And so when is she going to do
this upcoming week actually? Because I don't know when this drops, but it's August 9th right now. So this upcoming week she's going to be doing it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, this will probably go out on the 20th.
Okay. So it's already done when you're listening to this.
Yay! And she's picked out her new name.
Yeah, she already has, I believe so.
This is something that she'd been thinking about for years.
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
Yeah, she's thought about it for a while. So
cool. Well, and anything new and exciting coming up with Sinister Dream? Or I know you've got 3 podcasts.
Four podcasts.
Tell you got to plug those.
We have 4 podcasts because it's the Sinister Dreamcast Network. We have 4. Mondays is Happiness is a Warm Pun or Warm Gun. That's what I want the name to be because we originally I recently heard that and I'm like, it should be Happiness is a Warm Pun, but it isn't. Happiness is a Warm Gun on Mondays. Wednesdays, my girlfriend Juliana, she has her own podcast called Scenario Store News with her best friend Kirsten.
Nice.
Thursdays, I have my other podcast with my best friend. Who lives in LA. We do it over FaceTime called the Insert Movie Reference Here podcast, which we get pretty... If you like listening to me talk about film theory and stuff, we talk about it there. So there's 2 filmmakers talking about it on there. And I also make fun of him for not having water because he lives in LA.
Oh. Poor LA. Poor Californians.
Yeah, whenever it was raining, I couldn't give any, everyone was complaining about the rain. I'm like, we have water.
Right.
Like, don't complain.
It could be so much worse.
Yeah.
We could be in a drought.
And then Fridays is the original flagship Sinister Dreamcast.
Cool. And these can be found on
iTunes, Stitcher. Happiness is not on Stitcher just because I haven't gotten around to doing it. Okay. And also SoundCloud. Okay. No one listens on SoundCloud, so it's just it's really I'm paying for SoundCloud at this point to have like an archive of everything.
Well, it's funny because I get more of my listeners on SoundCloud as opposed to I don't know. I can't iTunes doesn't have anything to really.
What do you use? Or is your RSS
It's just
feed?
all SoundCloud. Yeah, SoundCloud. Okay. No, I don't. Yeah, it's SoundCloud that makes my RSS feed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm paying for.
You can get Libsyn. They're pretty cheap.
Yeah,
and they're local.
Yeah, I know. And I found all that out after I got everything set up on SoundCloud, and I was like, I should probably switch this over quickly before I get more. Libsyn's
really good. Like the analytics are they break down. Like we know where in the world people are listening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, SoundCloud's pretty good about that. I can tell it breaks down cities and the top 25 cities or whatever and the people and the users and all that jazz. But iTunes, I don't get any analytics on. I don't know what's happening on there.
That's weird.
But anywho, do you also have a website?
Yes.
Twitter, Facebook?
Yeah, we have SinisterDream.com, where we actually just released 3 new short films.
Yeah.
The first one, At First You Don't Succeed, which is like a horror tropes kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Which I wrote it just to kind of play with the different horror tropes.
Nice.
And also so we could try to shoot it in a day, which we did.
Cool.
Azazel, which is the one movie that's not really... Roy's in that one, actually.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Roy has a part in that one. which is an exorcism movie, and then which is probably like the most depressing thing I've ever written, but I'm like really proud of it because it's terrifying. One of my friend's little sisters was in the movie, and like when we were shooting it, we did a scene, and I'm watching it on my monitor, and I was like, Mary, have you ever killed somebody? And she's like, wait, what? Do I need to know to kill someone? I'm like, no, you scared me that much. And then the movie that we did for the 48-hour film project,
Awesome.
Total Party Kills, up there as well.
Which is very entertaining. I enjoyed that one very much.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll be getting those on PCTV soon.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely, give you guys all info. Are you going to participate in the horror?
Probably not, because we're going to be doing... Another thing is... I just wrote a feature script for us that was based off of our web series that failed because someone stole our goddamn footage. Yeah, someone stole our footage. My director of photography had the footage in his bag with his handy cam, and he was moving. He was living in Allentown, if that gives you an idea. And he was moving, and while in the process of moving, the doors open, everything.
Yeah.
Especially because he had like 5 roommates, so the door was always open. Someone went in, stole it, and it was like one of the most important parts of the movie, of the web series. So we kind of abandoned it for a while, but I didn't want to abandon it because I really like the story. So I actually, last Saturday, I finished the first draft, and it's called Death of the Party.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to be doing a documentary, like a web documentary explaining like what happened with Nevermore, which was the original name of the series. So we can do crowdfunding in October.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm hoping... I wrote it real simple. It only takes place in like 5 locations, and 90% of it... 90% of it is in the one location. So...
And that's how you do it on the cheap.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about it. We have... I just got the message from the chick who was in the original web series. She's down. She read the script and she loved it, so she's back. So we got a lot of the original cast returning.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all right, great. I look forward to seeing that stuff. And as always, I like watching you guys' stuff. It's always fun and entertaining.
Thanks. That's what we go for.
And thank you for coming out and, talking about The Departed. Professor always has to put his 2 cents in at the end. And, as always, you can follow Down to Watch on Twitter, DTW Podcast, or you can send me an email. What did you think of The Departed? Do you have any favorite kill scenes from that movie? downtowatchpodcast@gmail.com. And until next time, this has been a Rugged Angel production.